I am standing outside the ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain in downtown Burlington, Vermont. It is a nationally acclaimed aquarium and science center that is home to a variety of animal ambassadors who live in Lake Champlain Basin. Since ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain inspires visitors to positively impact the world around them, and specifically the health of Lake Champlain Basin, I was curious to learn more about one special animal ambassador, the Spiney Softshell Turtle. 10,000 years ago, the Spiny Softshell Turtle thrived in the Champlain Sea. Today, the Spiny Softshell Turtle is a threatened species in Vermont. It's estimated that fewer than 300 adult Spiny Softshell Turtles can currently be found around Lake Champlain Basin. As part of a recovery program by Vermont Fish and Wildlife, ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain takes care of the baby turtles and gets them healthy and ready to be set free in the summer. To learn more about this unique turtle, I spoke with environmental exhibit specialist Shannon Kane. So we are inside ECHO at the Animal Care Center speaking with Shannon. Shannon, can you tell us about what the mission of the Animal Care Center and what people do here?
So animal care specifically, our goal is to essentially take care of all the animals and give them the best life possible. That's essentially it. So that includes feeding, veterinary care, maintaining the exhibits, cleaning, whatnot, designing them.
What would you say is a typical day? And do you care for a lot of animals and species?
Yes. So a typical day is I come in usually around like 6:45 or so, and I just do rounds. So essentially I check every animal and I check to make sure all their life support systems are still functioning properly, and just make sure everything looks like it should.
So can you tell us why they are called animal ambassadors?
Yeah, they're called animal ambassadors because they're essentially here as ambassadors to the wildlife found out in our ecosystems. So they're here representing the animals that are found throughout the Lake Champlain Basin.
So let's talk about this very special animal ambassador, the Spiny Softshell Turtle.
Yeah, so they're a species of softshell turtle. They also are found in the Great Lakes, but our local population is cut off from them. They don't have any gene flow, meaning that animals are not moving from one area to another. So essentially our small population is cut off from the larger one. We don't know if they have specific characteristics to this lake as opposed to the other one. It could be a different subspecies now. We don't know though.
So Shannon, how is caring for these turtles different from the other animals at ECHO?
The adults, it's not that much different actually. Handling is a little bit different because you can't put pressure on their backs. But in terms of the care for the babies that we house here over winter, their tanks get cleaned every day. They get food twice a day because they're babies and they need more food. And typically when they're younger, they usually have more medical problems, so they usually need a little bit more attention in general.
Another follow-up question about, how do I ask it? About how you care for them in the winter and how they grow fat.
So the idea behind the Head Start program is essentially we're taking in some turtles that Steve Perrin brings to us, and essentially the goal is to have them continue growing all winter long. So if it's too late in the year for him to feel comfortable releasing them back out into the wild, like maybe it's too cold or, maybe there's certain circumstances, like maybe they're compromised for some reason, he will then bring them to us, we'll overwinter them, and what that allows them to do is, while their wild counterparts are hibernating and not growing, they're essentially just kind of dormant, the ones here will actually continue to grow all winter long, which means they're going to be, hopefully by the time we release them, slightly bigger than the average size of their predators' mouths. So that essentially allows, just maybe even just a little bit more of them to survive to adulthood. Because naturally, turtles, only about 2% of the babies that hatch will actually survive to adulthood. That's just a fact of turtles. So we're hoping to bump that up just a little bit with these guys.
ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain has a turtle adoption program to support the care of baby spiny softshell turtles. This program gets them healthy and ready to be set free in the summer. When you support this program, you contribute to the success of these baby turtles being released back into the Lake Champlain Basin. I went to visit Kelsey von der Lin, Events and Guest Services Coordinator, to get more information on the adoption program. So, Kelsey, there's a program here at ECHO to support the Spiney Softshell Turtle. Can you tell us more about the program?
Yeah, at the front desk we support adopting the softshell turtles. So you can either become a softshell supporter or a softshell superstar. Both of them help support softshell turtles. But when you become a superstar, you actually get to come watch the turtles get released in June, which is a really fun event for kids. And it gets you a couple other perks too, like day passes to come to ECHO to watch your turtles up in the Action Lab, as well as coming to see them all the time.
As Shannon mentioned, there is a partnership with Vermont Fish and Wildlife, specifically through the work of one man, Steve Perrin. Steve Perrin, with the Wildlife Diversity Program, knows a lot about the Spiny Softshell Turtle. He has even written a recovery program for them. I sat down with Steve, who is leading the management and conservation of nesting beaches for the Spiny Softshell Turtles around Lake Champlain Basin. It is his passion for his work that has added to the success of his program, and his work with ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain. So, Steve, tell us about these amazing creatures, your work at Vermont Fish and Wildlife, and how the partnership works with ECHO.
Sure. Well, I've been working with Spiny Softshell Turtles for a long time now, probably starting in the late 90s. And originally it was with adult turtles, and we had radio tags on them. And it morphed into a management program focused on nesting beaches. And, you know, the large female turtles, and they can live up to 60 years old, so they can be pretty old. And the females can be pretty big. They can be 16-inch shell, so that's a large turtle. They have to reproduce, and if you don't have recruitment, you won't have a population. So even though the adult turtles are, I would argue, the most critical component of the population, you still have to have reproduction and you have to have survival. And that's kind of the point at which I intervene, because we have a lot of predators who think turtle eggs are kind of tasty. What impresses me is that there's a lot of ways to fail if you're a turtle. You know, your nest can get flooded, the raccoons can dig up your nest and eat you, there's parasitic flies that get into the nest, and then if you're successful and you get to the water, anything that's bigger than you can eat you. I kind of think of baby turtles as being like Oreo cookies with legs.
Do you know if the population is improving or is it on a decline?
Well, it's definitely declined in historic times. We lost an entire population that was centered on the Winooski River. So since I've been involved, that population doesn't exist, but historically it did. And a large portion of its range, they are not doing well. So I estimate, and it's really a rough guesstimate, that there's maybe 300 adult and large juvenile turtles in Lake Champlain.
Like if they were absent, what kind of repercussions would you expect may or may not happen?
I don't know that there would be a cascading effect of removing a spiny softshell turtle. I don't really think that they're necessarily a keystone species, but it's part of the web. It's sort of like the analogy where you hear about the rivets in the plane. You know, how many rivets can you lose and still have a plane that you're willing to fly in?
Right.
For me, it's more the intrinsic value of the creatures themselves. This animal's been around for thousands of years. Turtles pretty much look like they do today in the Jurassic. You know, they've been around for millions of years. Kind of cool. And this particular turtle is different than the others. It has a long snout. It has a leathery shell. It can, when it's on land, if it gets scared, it can pick up and run like a horse. it can gallop. It doesn't, it's not dragging a heavy, hard shell around like a painted turtle. It's got this flexible shell, and I can remember once accidentally scaring a female softshell into the water. She went about 30 feet, and by the time she hit Lake Champlain, she was going fast enough that she hydroplaned for about 3 feet before she sunk into the water. So, just for me, it just, being awed by this other creature that I'm sharing Vermont with.
So Steve, you were talking about how you spend a lot of time taking care of the nests. How do you work with ECHO?
I do this nest management, kind of intensive nest management, and then I work with ECHO, for this head starting. And I think one of the real values of having ECHO as a partner is that they've got this really nice facility in downtown Burlington. It draws in people who I'm never going to speak with. And so by that interaction, and they have, you've seen it, they've got a great display with the hatchling soft shells. So they're bringing people in, and there's an opportunity to make these people aware of this incredible species that's right in Lake Champlain that they may not even know about. Because if people don't care about wildlife, the chances of wildlife surviving over generations to come is less likely. And so I really think that educational component that ECHO is well placed to provide is really an important piece of the conservation trajectory we need to follow. It's hard. You ask some questions that I've heard over and over again, and there's some commercial on TV and they talk about some compound originally found in jellyfish. Well, if that's the only reason why we care about jellyfish, we're not going to have jellyfish in the future. It's like we need to, as a species, we need to appreciate all the other species for their intrinsic value.
Right.
It's like it's more than just humans on the planet, and so it's sort of a matter of faith. Is other life worth saving?
I was inspired today to learn how I can impact the world around me. I learned that I can make a difference and support the work that Champlain ECHO Leahy Science Center is doing. So come down to ECHO Leahy Center for Lake Champlain and meet these wonderful creatures and become a supporter of the adoption program, which has made a significant difference in the livelihood of the Spiney Softshell Turtle.